Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 123 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In the last episode, we got the LTN network set up with all of our resources we need, so now it's time to send them somewhere. And we're basically going to want to rebuild this bus because it's set up to take regular plates, and we're going to be sending coils there. So either we're going to have to send the resources in and then convert them from coils to plates and just have 1/4 the throughput on the bus, or we're going to have to retrofit all this stuff. And we are on the cusp of a new tier of technology, so a lot of this stuff's probably going to be a little outdated anyway. So this is an excellent time to basically rebuild this, and it's probably easier to do it in steps rather than all at once. For example, this is getting kind of complicated here. So we can take all of the science elements out of this, send it somewhere else, and make this simpler. And we could do the same thing with circuits as well, because we can do the white circuits and also like modules and that sort of thing. So we have two different buses that we can split off of this and have them elsewhere, and then whatever's left over we can rebuild. And we're going to probably end up not using as many resources because, for example, the solder only goes into making circuits. So if we're not making circuits here, we don't need solder. And figuring out exactly what we do and don't need might be kind of annoying. So it might be easier to just move the bus elements away first and then remove the elements that we have moved. And then we'll see what resources are left over and what we actually need to deliver. But before we get into that planning, there's a couple of things that we can try to take care of here. It's not too big a deal, but it's a slight efficiency increase. So you notice right here with our sodium nitrate that we're almost full on it. And yes, it's fine. The factory water purifiers has been upgraded, so they will properly clarify this away. But we can actually turn this into fuel. So we're leaving a little bit of energy on the table by just clarifying this. Because we can go to rocket boosters, where we take that nitric acid and add some ammonia gas, which is basically just nitrogen and hydrogen. And we get sodium nitrate, add some iron, and we get rocket boosters, which are a moderately dense fuel type, but it is faster in both acceleration and top speed compared to the white fuel blocks. So it is technically an improvement for all of our machines that move. So we might as well research that. But let's go down there and upgrade it. Okay, let's try to plan for this. Well, we already have a known output of nitric acid, so we might as well set it up to run on this same amount. So we select our rocket boosters from ammonium nitrate. Let's actually take this back to get the exact numbers here, where we're making nitric acid from nitrogen dioxide, and then that dioxide is made from sodium nitrate. And we'll use the matrix solver to get this lined up with the correct numbers. And as a check here, we just have the inputs and then output and no extra gases. So I believe the factory's maximum is 7.5 sodium nitrate per second, which is 1.8 rocket boosters a second. So the part that's relevant to this isn't really the acid, because we're already making the acid, so we just need 1.1 chemical plants combining ammonia with acid, and then we have to add an iron pipe to that. Well, we can make the ammonia gas right here from hydrogen and nitrogen. Let's see, those numbers aren't really turning out right, so looks like it's linking to oxygen instead of nitrogen. So this probably needs to be half speed. And some compressed air to go in there. And we've got to do the red metal catalyst, which is pretty straightforward. Purified water is already being taken care of. And then we need these iron pipes, which is easily done with an assembly machine. So we have a little logistical challenge here, considering we have fuel and chemicals, which is all done locally here, but then we also need to combine it with iron pipes. So we can either send the output along to where iron is, or send the iron here. And it might be easier to send iron here. Let's see, this space is pretty open right here, and we don't really need that much space. So let's just build the setup here, and then move it to wherever makes sense. Let's see how they line up. Well, since there's only one output, it looks like it lines up just fine here. Well, that's the case. We can kind of put them right there. We do need to handle these catalysts. And it looks like it needs them fairly slowly. So we can just do this in whatever method makes sense. So we can have like a belt coming down here. And then distance changing inserter right there. And then long-handed going back. Let's see, we can kind of just space them right here. Do some direct insertion. We need to get some resources in there. Probably it makes the most sense instead of shipping iron pipes, or instead of shipping iron plates, to actually start using coils, because we have coils now, and every single thing we build that doesn't use coils is something that'll probably get rebuilt later. So to avoid that, let's just do it properly. So there's the iron pipes. And then this will make plates from sheet coils. And then this will output our rocket boosters. See, that seems pretty good here. Kind of a lot's going on. It's using a bunch of different elements of the factory. So it's sending its oxygen elsewhere. It's receiving hydrogen. It's receiving nitric acid. And it's receiving iron. But this really could fit anywhere. So it doesn't really matter where we put it. But just so we're not sending acid all over the place, we might as well keep it close by. Get that facing the right direction. And acid is right here. And it looks like we can kind of use this space right there. I'm going to move this out of the way because I think the nanobots are good enough for something this small. So we're going to pick this up. Let's see if we can find somewhere to put it. Just wherever makes sense. Let's actually slice it in here in a very specific spot. Right there. I have a plan. It's so we can use this empty space right here for the oxygen. So we can just kind of come in through here and... kind of works. Got some stuff in the way, but we got it. So we need to get hydrogen. And it is nearby as well. Let's see, that's kind of in the way, but I think we can move that to the other side. I think we still can make it work. Man, what a messy belt. Well, it's going to be moved soon, so this should be okay. Hydrogen's in. So now we need to do the red catalyst. All this stuff can basically be handled by drones because it's such a tiny quantity per second of items that this is all well within what drones can handle without causing any major issues. So we make 2 request depots. We actually don't have the space for these loaders. So I'm going to be a little weird and put them on the side here. Don't strictly have to use loaders for these, but I figure since I've used them on most of the other parts of the factory, we'll do it there too. And let's see, they should all still be on the network. Guess we can hit the road network here and see, and we do have 400 copper ore and 1,000 iron ore. So it's already being sent. I believe it comes from somewhere around here. Yes, I think we disabled this because we didn't want it to do a loop. So we disconnected it. It still might do a loop if this isn't disconnected as well. So probably need to disconnect that. Let's see, we can leech off of one of these. Have priority for the output like we do on the other machine. I don't know exactly how much we want to have in here. We probably don't need 10,000 for this particular thing. Let's just do 1,000. We'll let that fill up. So we can zip in here and disable this, but it looks like actually copper is already completely run out, which is interesting. Looks like it just hasn't quite made its way all the way down yet, but... So, no stereotype, huh? Oh, well. The stereotype train is empty. Well, in that case, I think I'll just leave it. If we completely run out of copper, we can request some more copper. But for now, this isn't necessary anymore. Just so we're not doing any drone loops here. And we can throw the extra copper in there for now. Now that we've done that, we can make some drone requests. I think one drone on each is more than enough. Because we only need 0.1 per second. So that will be quite alright. We do need to stock this with some metal catalysts here. Not sure exactly how many. But I think they're pretty easy to make. Yeah, you make them in sets of 10. I would like to have about 200 fully ready to go in this steel chest. So we'll just load up and then see how that looks. So we probably want another set here. And those drones are going to take a little while to get here. So we need to get the acid in. And the acid is just down here. That pipe right there, so we should be able to just run straight down. Although there is a belt in the way. So let's move it off to the side a little bit. Let's try to line it up with these other pipes for symmetry's sake. And there we go, we got some nitric acid in there. Now we need a request depot for these plates. Put it right there. Make a request. Iron sheet coils, and just the one is plenty, because again, we need 0.9 per second, so that's like 0.2 coils a second, so that'll be quite easy for a single drone to do. But now we do need to get coils on here. And that's a little tricky, because we don't really have a road set up for this. And I'm certainly not sending a train out here. Let's see, the closest road is probably to come up through here. We may be requesting small amounts of various resources for different construction projects, but it looks like it's less road to just come in through here than it is to like go all the way through there. So this might end up being a loop someday. But for now, I think we could just move the road up, and it looks like it'll basically fit. It looks like there's a little more room on the right than the left, so maybe that's the side it should be on. But it should be pretty easy to do. We just need a bunch of road materials. But here comes fuel truck. Looking good. So we just need to continue this a little bit, and inventory is a bit full. So it goes like through here. And probably on the side of the track. Like this. And then this road can come in probably up a little bit, just so there's a little bit of space, but roads are easy to move. So close. Gonna have to move stuff a little bit here, make this work. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Hook this up, and let's say a single drone's worth ought to be just fine. Which is 400. There we go. Sat's filled up, and a drone should probably be on the way now. Yep, there it goes. So how's our resources doing here? Maxed out on tin, maxed out on nickel. With no silicon. But the ore came in. And we're loaded up on these catalysts. Let's make, let's say 60 more of them. Looks like we haven't hooked up the nitrogen here. It's a missing pipe. So let's put that right there. Alright, and there goes the ammonium nitrate. Looks pretty good. And our coils are on the way. And we'll want some logic to control this, because we don't necessarily always want this to be running. Because we want to keep some of this on hand for actual nitric acid, so we don't want to consume all of it. So there's basically two conditions that we might want to run this. One is that if sodium nitrate is too high, we want to make it into rocket fuel so we can burn it. So that's one condition. And the second condition is that our rocket fuel stores are too low, because presumably we'll want to use this for all of our trains. So we can do another supply depot and use this as the chest. Then we need some decider combinators. And we have two situations where we might want to run this. First situation is that our supply is low. So how big are the stacks of rocket fuel? 200, so that's pretty dense. So I would say we probably want to have, let's say, like a couple of drone trips, like 5 drone trips, which would be 2,000 on hand. Okay, so the first condition goes in there. And if the rocket booster is less than 2,000, output a green square. That's the first on condition. And the second on condition can be if sodium nitrate is above, what should be a high point? Do we want to keep a large store of resources on hand or use it all up? Well, the inserters turn off at 50,000, so let's say this has to be above 40,000 for it to start consuming it. And then output a green square. And now we need to get the signal there. And let's see, the acid is right here. I'm actually going to connect this with a green wire instead of the red one, so the networks don't cross, because we need to get the red signal up here. Oh, hey, look at that. Coils made it. Turning them into plates, turning them into pipes, and then turning them into rocket boosters. Let's get this acid signal up here. So it goes in there, and it's sending out a green square. So we got 2 green squares, because both of those conditions are true. But we only need one of the conditions to be true to actually turn on production. So we could run a separate red wire just across here and say, turn on if there's a green square, which there is. And we can use this logic to control how these rocket boosters get consumed. So the warehouse nominally will have 2,000 rocket boosters on hand, and that can be used for trains or anything else. However, if the number gets higher than that, specifically because this condition was enabled, then that high amount can be sent to get burned. And that's kind of my logic there. So in go the rocket boosters. And it looks like this is going pretty good. So we can take a little bit of that rocket fuel out and put it in a train and compare. Enriched fuel blocks, they do make less pollution, but it's 150% acceleration compared to 180, so definitely better for the boosters, and we get an extra 5% top speed, which is kind of nice. I don't particularly feel the need to have super fast and speedy trains, so 1 locomotive is fine for me. Unfortunately, it just used a new fuel block, And they hold a lot of fuel, so we're not really going to be able to see the results of that train. Okay, we can test the fuel blocks on the crawler here. It's a pretty slow vehicle, but let's try with the rocket boosters. Oh yeah, it's definitely faster. Especially the acceleration, which really matters since this thing accelerates so slowly. So we definitely want to convert all of our vehicles to rocket boosters. Might take a while to get enough stacks to supply the factory. So for now, I'm not going to hook it up to any logic, because I'm not sure exactly how much of this we're going to be producing and how long it's going to take before there's enough to actually fuel the factory with it. But we can refuel all the vehicles we have. You can see how it gets consumed very quickly when you have to put 3 stacks and everything. They're definitely a lot more dense than fuel blocks are. So it's looking good. It's working its way down, and it's just about at the point where it's going to shut off since it's at 40,000 there. So we'll revisit this in the future, see what numbers we're looking at, and how much of the factory this could be integrated in. Because we actually have other options too, that now that we have aluminum and silver here, and we can make green metal catalyst, we can actually make nitrogen monoxide gas. And we have to add ammonia, which in itself is a red metal catalyst gas. But basically, that means that we'll never really be short on nitric acid, because we'll always be able to create some more here. It's just, it does use some resources, but we'll see. If we ever run out, we'll definitely be able to augment it with this. And I suppose large scale, if you just want to make a lot of rocket boosters, you could do so with this process. Hey, the extra speed's even nice on this thing. There's actually something else we can do too. It's right here with silicon. Because the way we had this logic set up is that we're holding 10,000 silicon on hand if we need it for some reason. And although we're not going to be making much with this setup anymore, that's still 10,000 silicon for free, basically. So it would be a shame not to use it. So what we can do is completely disconnect it from this. The only thing we were using the silicon ingots on was just making more iron, so we really don't need to do that anymore. So we can basically send all of it up. Let's have a circuit condition on here just to have some silicon available. Doesn't have to be much, let's say like 200. It will dump the rest. You can just go straight up in here, and we make a supply depot. And we do need to have a limiter in here, so we're not sending drones for single bits of resources. And just say we have to have at least 400, which is a drone's worth, for it to turn on. And there we go. That's going to be a bunch of silicon. Slowly draining out of there. And we can actually deliver it right here. This lonely belt is the belt that has all of the crystallizers on it. And it will eventually go up right here and be distributed on the bus and make it to where it needs to go. So we can patch this in real fast. Requesting silicon, and let's just put 10 drones in there because we want all of it. We'll give it some input priority. But it needs to be red. And there we go. That will transfer all of our resources. It's fairly temporary, but it's easier than just moving resources around by hand. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to plan for our new white circuits. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.